Hey, this is Eric Simmons at Furniture Depot in Gewen. We've been here in Gewen for 10 years serving the needs of families like yours with furniture from Ashley, Serenity Sleep, Million Dollar Rustic. We have stores in Gewen and Fayette. So come see me here at Gewen or my wife at Fayette, and we'll be happy to serve you.
Hello, Lee Hines here, owner-operator of Alexander's Heating and Air Conditioning. We've been family-owned and operated since 1954, proudly serving Marion, Fayette, and Lamar County. We are Carrier Factory authorized dealers, but service all makes and models. We specialize in residential and light commercial HVAC systems. So as we get ready to enter another hot Alabama summer, please remember Alexander's Heating and Air for all your HVAC needs.
Homes and ones that has lost family members the last couple of months and years. Just let us do the best we can do. In your name, Jesus, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the June 7th, 2022 Winfield City Council meeting. First item on the agenda is approve the minutes from the May 17th, 2022 council meeting. If none of the council got any questions or comments how the minutes are written, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Motion, Gina, and get a second. James, all in favor? Next item on the agenda is Tom Weisner from C3. He's going to bring us an update to kind of tell us where we're at. Projects.
Thanks, Mayor, Price, and Council. Did want to give a brief quarterly update on some of our activities, but also I'm passing out a handout here I wanted to talk about as well. It's kind of a specific concept that we wanted to talk with you all about. First, on the update, we over the last year, as I mentioned last time, we've had really good expansion activity in our three counties. Ended up being over 300 jobs total when you added it all up, and over 150 million in capital investment. So kind of growing our own industry has been very robust. We have some projects, new projects that we're working on. Two of them are in Marion County, in a different jurisdiction, and a couple other projects as well that are new projects, but they're also kind of homegrown business people that were from our region that are doing new projects, which is great. We continue to try to attract kind of those state level projects through the Commerce Department. We submitted a couple, submitted the one project, the RFI for Winfield Industrial Park, another one that needed a rail service. That was one of the locations we submitted was in Winfield. We'll continue to press for those. So, those can be pretty hard to get. You got to do a lot of RFIs to get kind of one or two site visits and so forth. So we'll keep pressing on that. The one I want to talk about tonight pertains to making us more marketable. I want to thank the city for your support for C3, for Northwest Alabama Economic Development Alliance. We're working on a number of things kind of before I get into the industrial side, and kind of things that we look to do with our member communities. There's a group the group's out of a group called Opportunity Alabama that started to support opportunity zones, but that's kind of branched out since then. These are people that really good kind of financial guru type people that will help local communities find funding sources for projects that you're working on. There's a group or a team program they started called the Community Growth Accelerator Program. They'll take a local team, kind of meet with them for about 8 to 10 weeks, no charge. They'll usually kind of zoom in on one particular project, either in your downtown or somewhere in your city. and try to find ways to propel that forward through financing and kind of preferably stacking different types of financing to help make that, to implement some project that you're working on. We would like to do that, apply to be part of that, one of the cohorts into that program coming up in the fall for Winfield. And we'd look at either a project in downtown or potentially Exit 30, kind of to be determined. But that's sort of an example where for the member communities, we're looking to support commercial development in addition to industrial. We're also looking at a number of educational partnership efforts where we kind of public-private partnerships where we partner with private industry to help support some workforce development and kind of future pipeline with high school kids and so forth. And should have more information next time on that. We haven't heard back yet on the entrepreneurship grant that we applied through the USDA. I'm expecting that kind of any day now. Unfortunately, the Brownfields grant application was not successful. We have a debriefing coming up with the EPA here actually tomorrow, or no, Thursday. Hopefully get some feedback, reload, apply the next round, and hopefully be successful. But looking to do some ways to support commercial retail development in our member communities, and those are some of the sort of the examples. Back to industrial, we've had, so I said if you look at that handout, I wanted to talk about this concept of doing a virtual spec building instead of doing sort of a newer concept, virtual instead of actually doing a full-scale bricks and mortar spec building. One reason I'm asking tonight is we're looking at potentially developing some funding partnerships where the other sources of funds where the city would be sort of like a matching type deal where if the city wants to do this, you put in sort of half, and then the funding partners would provide a 0% interest, no payment loan for about say three-year period, and then what happens first if you sell the property or 3 years elapsed at that point in time, then you would pay back the 0% loan at that point. Kind of getting your initial feed. We've looked at this, I talked about this last time, I want to go a little bit more into it, kind of get your feelings about it, because that will inform when we if we decide to put together this funding partnership, is there interest in doing a virtual spec building approach, and if so, I'll come back with more information and hopefully a funding source that could help support it. So I'll go through this quickly. Competitively, I feel like we have a lot of advantages. I-22, we have some, and specifically the Winfield Industrial Park, it's nice, flat, dry, well-positioned site, has a lot of advantages in terms of cost for business, freedom fiber, I could go down the list. The one challenge that a lot of people, a lot of us are dealing with is there's no available buildings really in any of our industrial parks. When I meet with the EDPA, Economic Development Partnership of Alabama, the sites and building guy there says a couple of years back they had 1,200 buildings in their database for the state, now they're down to 400. So if you do have a building, it's a really precious commodity. Of course, the challenge, it's really hard to build right now, very expensive, and more expensive than it usually is. And even if it weren't as expensive as it is right now, building bricks and mortar spec industrial buildings is fairly high risk. I mean, you're usually talking millions of dollars, and they may take sometimes several years to utilize those. The concept of the virtual spec building is to cut that price, and it cuts it 1/20. It'll cost 1/20th as much. You kind of do everything but build the building. You do a lot of the due diligence, kind of engineering work, layout of a building, and some of the sort of the pre-design work. It cuts out a couple months. So if there's a prospect that wants to potentially go in your park that's on a fairly accelerated timeline, you might not be able to put it into that quote-unquote building as quickly as you would an existing spec building, a bricks and mortar spec building, but it's almost as fast, and it's faster than starting from scratch with a build-to-suit type of approach. So one reason it can be more competitive, it sort of offers the kind of the shovel-ready sites, but also more flexibility. That's another thing about a physical spec building is it's kind of Murphy's Law, where if you build a 50,000 square foot building. The first several prospects we talked to say they want 80. And if you put the floor in, they want more floor thickness, higher ceilings, more bays, and so forth. So it does provide more flexibility. It's obviously lower cost. Another thing about the way some communities and we propose here are using virtual spec buildings is that in addition to that speed to market, low cost, and flexibility, it's a marketing tool. So if we create a website, if prospects went to the website, and I know it's a little bit big brother, but they go to that website and start to learn about your spec building, we'd see their URL, we'd know who they are, we could market to them. The proposal would be, there's sort of two packages here. There's the base package, which is you do a lot of the basic, update all your studies if you need to, prepare the site, and do the engineering, kind of the pre-engineering work with the site design, where the building would go, kind of your driveways and layout and so forth. And you would do a rendering of the building, do some nice virtual kind of renderings that will help you market and show a prospect, here's what you'd look like on this site. Kind of everything but build the building. Not full architectural detailed design, but most of the work up to that point, and then obviously before building. The other the second deluxe package would add on something called a dynamic building calculator, where in this case you would partner with a construction firm that would be able to create a tool so when the prospect goes in to look at the virtual building, if they want to see how much more would it cost, how much longer would it take if we did add, if I added higher ceilings and add HVAC preferences and so forth, you kind of tweak to your specifications, and it'll give you an updated price, kind of a sliding price based upon their preferences, how much ceiling height, floor thickness, column spacing, and so forth. That's a really nice tool as well. On page 9, you start to see some examples. One of the examples, kind of that base package, Wichita Falls. They didn't do the dynamic building calculator, but they have all the design work, all the engineering done, kind of ready to go with a 3D rendering. And then after that, there's a couple examples where they did all that work, and then in addition to that, also used the dynamic building calculator. You can see there's sort of drop-down options there with ceiling height and floor thickness, and by changing that, it'll change the estimated budget and the time to build. On page 13 and 14, you kind of see those two packages. The base package where you're doing the engineering and the design and so forth, but not the building calculator. Generally, it depends on how much you need to update on some of those studies, but you're probably looking at sort of 40, 45,000 or so. And then if you add the dynamic building calculator, you're usually up into sort of 70, 80 kind of range. Again, we're looking at some funding partnerships where that would be sort of a 50-50 type deal. One question that came up when I talked to another group about this was, has anybody used a virtual building to close a deal? And I have kind of 1.5 examples here, starting on page 16. Very recently, Clinton, Missouri, they used a virtual spec building, industrial spec building in November 2021. They launched it. They immediately began to start responding to RFIs that fit that virtual building, and they landed a deal like 3 months later, just kind of right after launching. And that was one where the manufacturer planned to use their 30,000 square foot virtual spec building. They're going to build that. And it helped land the deal because the company management liked having that tool, liked being able to see it on the site. It definitely helped them visualize being in that community. The second successful deal was not technically a virtual spec building. These are some guys I know from North Carolina. In this case, though, what they did was they sold in December, just 2020, they sold 6 acres in an industrial park to a developer that planned to construct an actual 20,000 square foot shell building. But before the steel even arrived, that developer had kind of done what you would do with a virtual building. They did the due diligence and the engineering, pre-engineering, but before they started building it, they sold the property. And the fact that they had done these initial steps, and buildings are so scarce right now that by them doing that work, it made it a hot commodity, and they sold the building before they even built it. So in a sense, it was kind of the same effect as doing a virtual spec, industrial spec building, but without that being their intent. And this company that bought that building, it was actually helpful that they hadn't built it yet, because they wanted twice as much space, and they wanted to make some other tweaks to that building. By the fact that it wasn't built yet, it gave more flexibility. So just wanted to get your initial thoughts, answer any questions on this, because if it's something, and there's not asking for a vote or anything like that, just kind of general sense of interest or lack thereof. If there's some interest, when we go back to this a couple of these potential funding partners, we'll know, oh, we've talked to several communities, they're interested, they want to learn more, or if it's sort of a non-starter, that's useful information too. But I'm happy to answer any questions either about kind of general quarterly updates or this concept.
I think it's a no-brainer. I'd rather spend what money we had to than $10 million on a building. That might be just more than likely not gonna be what I'm looking for. I like the idea of it. And if we had a partner, that's something we look at. Well, we got a lot of land. I'm sure don't put 15, 20 buildings on it.
One question I received recently is concern about a recession. I mean, that's definitely well thought. I mean, I think one case for this is that if you are concerned about this, obviously this is way lower risk than doing an actual spec building. But it's not zero risk. On the other hand, there's risk to taking no risks at all either. So I think inaction is oftentimes risky, because you're kind of relying on somebody to kind of swoop in and do basically take it from there. And that happens sometimes, but more often than not, you have to continue to position your parks to close deals.
If this is completed and you have the virtual spec of the building and you have visions of the property, how's that circulated?
That's a great question. There will be a project, the building will be on kind of its own web platform. We'll market it through our website. If I go to trade shows, it's gonna be front and center. We have great parks, but if you have a building to show, even a virtual building, that's good eye candy, that's good marketing. So we'll go out and market it directly, but it'll also be on the EDPA website, the EDPA database. We're trying to get them listed as a building. They're not quite there yet, but they are going to push it forward. If you have a product like this, it will get sort of higher recognition in their internal system than if you just have a site. I like some of the prospects, if they say, I'm looking for a building, and they have a realistic timeline, then the EDPA will suggest a property like this, assuming you can meet the timeline. And sometimes they come in and say, no, I want to be in a building in 5 months, which isn't really realistic. But you can't come back and say to that person, well, we have a virtual spec building. But the people that are saying, I want to be in 9 months, now you're in play. Whereas before, when you know this, you can't make 9 months. This will enable you to make 9 months.
Well, you're basically taking close to 2 years off of it by getting that finished.
Well, I would like to say that you're probably taking 3 to 4 months off.
I'm talking about site prep and everything.
Oh, yes. Well, your community has wisely done a lot of work in that park. From a completely raw situation, you made some really wise investments there. this will position it even further where now it might be a sort of 12 to 14 month delivery. This will enable it more in the 9 to 12 range.
So with the software package, if we had a virtual building of 8,000 square foot, and somebody's looking for 120,000, and the program that's included in that other package, they can go in and change the specs and get an estimated cost. For originally our spec building would have an estimated cost of $340 million, $3,400,000 something. By the time we added another 40,000 on it, that'd be up to 66 million. And you wouldn't have to have two specs. You just have one that can be modified. And you go up, you go higher in a building, you go lower in a building, you change to a different concrete depth. I mean, there's a lot of variables.
Well, for that reason, I mean, I'm all for building physical spec too, it's good for economic development, but I've talked to a number of communities and they'll say, I'll ask them, was your spec program successful? And they'll say, yes, it was, because we got prospects to go into the spec building and come to the community to tour the spec building. It was kind of a carrot that brought them to the community, but then they built across the street, or they built somewhere else in the community or somewhere else in the park. More often than not, they didn't want the actual spec building. It was almost like a fairly expensive showroom like you would have at a residential community. And it may actually pay off to do that, but that's a lot of money to spend. When more often than not, the building's not going to be exactly what they're looking for.
Is your office receiving a lot of calls for buildings that's already asking for buildings in the area?
Yes, well, that and I would say the kind of our partners for sure, Commerce Department, Leaves. I mean, when I go to trade shows, people are asking about buildings. When site selectors are sending these requests through, which usually go through the state, a lot of times they're asking for buildings. I've seen a lot of RFIs start out where they say you look at what they're asking, they want a building, they want it really fast, and you look at what they're asking for, and sort of cynically, I'm kind of thinking, good luck with that. You're probably not going to find that. And then 3 months later, you'll see the same project, Project Smith. It'll be back in the system again. Now they're looking for a greenfield. So because it's just so hard to find a building right now. A lot of businesses and site selectors want buildings. Trying to find them is another matter.
The one that's looking for buildings, what do you think an average amount of employees they're looking for? Because if it's a bigger industry, they're going to design and put their type building in the area to start with. I mean, I've got calls before on like contract work. You know, they're looking for buildings because they've got a contract work, maybe a contract for 2 or 3 years or whatever. And then they may be gone, or they may extend the contract and stay and employ 60 to 80 people. Are you running into, are you seeing that kind of request for buildings where somebody, you know, like under 100 employees for contract work and different things?
I've certainly seen those, but I think the target is more of a permanent manufacturing or headquarter, kind of regional headquarters. I mean, I think that's really on as the managers of the park. I mean, you can be fairly selective because you have a really good park and a good commodity there. I mean, I would, especially if we're talking like if we get into an incentives conversation. I mean, we're going to expect generally, especially on the state side, permanent, long-term, generally manufacturing. There's certain NAICS codes that the project would have to fit into. So, I mean, that doesn't quite answer your question. I mean, yes, but I mean, I think there's actually a lot of manufacturers that have been in the pipeline the last couple of years, especially food production, a lot of distribution projects. I mean, these are permanent jobs.
I'm seeing a lot of buildings for for, different storing and moving and transportation and different things.
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't consist of a whole lot of employees. I mean, I kind of like James, I kind of think that, you know, we're leaning toward, you know, if this will help market the property we have left in our industrial park, I think it would be wiser to do a virtual type deal versus actual, concrete, you know, or actual structure on the ground, because it may not, like you said, it may not be the need that the one, if you're trying to locate somebody there, that may not, they may want to do it across the road because they don't have anything.
Now, were you talking about distribution types of facilities?
It's a lot of people, warehousing, there's a lot of calls for warehousing, you know, and that's good in a way, but if they're not going to employ with one or two people, and it's more beneficial for the person that's doing it than versus the community, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that would be up to you, but I would think if, again, this may be much less expensive than the physical spec building, but it's still a considerable investment. Our target, it might be distribution, but it would be permanent, not just store, basically not just warehousing. And again, that would be up to the board, so to speak, but that wouldn't be our target from a marketing perspective. I think we try to accommodate those types of businesses, but not in this project.
Right. Question? Appreciate it. I'm sure the council will talk this over and see if there's something we want to move forward with. You keep us up to date as how it's going for us. People will be willing to, you know, help us set it up.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Next time on the agenda, we've got Mr. Bob Henry here on the hospital, about the hospital authority board.
Thank you for inviting me to this meeting. Last time I was here, we were in a tougher spot than we are today. When this city bought the hospital in 2018, they finished with a $4 million deficit budget in 2018. So the city took a big risk buying the hospital in the stage it was in. Otherwise, it would have bankrupt. Since then, we have really made a lot of difference in the hospital. We probably have one of the best administrative staffs that we've ever had. In 2019, we came in with a $2 million deficit, cut it in half. It was kind of picking the low branches, but we were positioning ourselves that year for the long run. So 2020, we put a budget together that was a break-even budget in 2020. And we made a bit of a surplus, not a lot, but we had a surplus budget. So we erased $4 million and a lot of unpaid debt during those 2 years. A lot of vendors were rapping on our door for payment. So the guy that owned this hospital for 3 years wasn't paying the bills and bankrupt 3 hospitals in this area. In 2021, the hospital again finished with a positive bottom line. So 2 years in a row, and this year I think they're looking for another modest positive bottom line. So it's good news. And then the other thing, if you drive past the hospital, you see a lot of work going on the outside, landscaping, cleaning the building, windows. Inside, there's a lot more going on. So we're really, from 1995 to 2005, there's 10 years. We were in a renaissance period. That hospital was growing and the campus was growing. We're back in a renaissance period right now. The hospital is identified with UAB, one of 5 rural hospitals in Alabama that UAB is interested in. They don't own us. I like the fact that we're still independent and we can sort of call our own shots. But it's good to be related to UAB because they're a powerhouse medical center and they can provide a lot of service to us, and they're starting to do that. So the hospital is building a new ER. The ER that we now have is the only place in that hospital that has not been renovated. Everything else has been renovated in recent times. So we're taking the old OR, which is in the back of the hospital, the old ICU, which is in the back of the old hospital, not the new hospital, the old hospital. And that's where we're creating an 8,000 square foot new ER, state of the art. We were fortunate to maximize our efforts with COVID funding, and Tracy and other people on the board have been able to get $2.5 million toward a $4 million project. That's what this project is, a little over $4 million. The hospital has to come up with matching monies of about $1.5 million to make up that $4 million. That's a grant, but it doesn't have to be paid back in any way. So we have $2.5 million federal monies, and we're raising 1.5. The hospital has most of that already in hand. So I'm here representing, when I was here in 2019, trying to dig out of the hole. At the end of that time, I left in March of 2020. I thought that it would be almost impossible for a rural hospital to meet all the needs, capital needs particularly. Just the roofing on our buildings was costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we've started a foundation to try to supplement the hospital needs. And that's why I'm here tonight. That foundation is trying to raise $250,000 for this ER project, emergency project. Beautiful building, state-of-the-art, one of the best probably ERs in the state of Alabama, especially a rural hospital. We have some very good physicians, some very good nurses who complement that. The only limitation they have is they're in this old building that we now have, which has served us well over the years. But this new building will be state-of-the-art. There are two drives that we're conducting. One I call stakeholders, those most intimately involved with the hospital and raising money from those people. And what I'm talking about there are employees, physicians, board members, and this council. This council is a stakeholder because you own this hospital. And therefore, we all have a great incentive to support it any way we can, particularly utilizing the hospital. That's the most important thing you can do for us, is to utilize this hospital. Otherwise, it won't exist. So the local communities and the communities around us are trying to create a regional medical center. And so this ER project, the ER is the gateway to the hospital. More patients come through the ER than any other service. And so our reputation largely rests on the quality of care that is given in that ER. And when I came here in 2019, we were renting most of the ER doctors, paying enormous amounts of money for physicians to come here and create more problems than not. So now we have our own ER physician staff. And not that we don't make mistakes, we still do, but they're doing a really good job. So the package is this. letter, an introductory letter about the project. There's a floor plan, and on the back of that is an exterior picture of the hospital. There is an attachment that says, why is a community hospital important? And then finally, there's a card here that you can fill out if you're going to make a donation, and a self-addressed envelope. So I'm going to pass these out to the council members, and I hope you'll support this, but it's up to you. It's not easy to raise $250,000. The other thing I would say, right now, we have about $16,000 raised. We have a major gift coming out, I'm not about to announce who, but we have a $25,000 gift that's 10% of the goal. We're trying to raise $250,000, so we already are 10% there. So anything you can do to support this project, we greatly appreciate it. Small money or big money, we appreciate any money. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
He, one council, kind of idea on the completion date, what kind of completion date you looking for?
They're already working, gutting the facility, and they expect to be completed in 8 to 11 months. So it should be almost completed by the end of this year, maybe completed. So it's a fast track. It's going to be great.
Anybody else got any questions, Bob? I appreciate you coming in, Bob. Give us an update here on that. The next item on the agenda is the Winfield Water Board appointment. I guess we got James. You're gonna make a recommendation for it. What you got for the water board appointment?
Okay. Has everyone got a copy of the letter
I think so.
that was sent out?
Yeah.
And the letter states, the purpose of this letter is to provide the mayor and council with a recommendation of the water board, waterworks and sewer board for the appointment of Randy Tomlin to the board. The current term for board member Sammy Wires expires July 30th, 2022. Is that right? Is that what y'all
It's
have?
actually August 16.
August 16th?
I believe August 16. What? August 16, August 20, something like that. That's what you were telling me today.
What you, I'll go on. Sammy, after many years of faithful service to our board, is no longer able to serve due to health reasons. Sammy and the other board members recently met to discuss the recommendation on this appointment. The board members respectfully present the unanimous recommendation of Randy Tomlin for this position. Finally, I have spoken with Randy about a possible appointment to our board, and he expressed his willingness to serve in the most important position.
Based on the board, that board's recommendation, Mr. Tomlin, having spoken with him, and willing to take that position, is my recommendation to council to take one. Mr. Tomlin to that position, effective the date that Sammy's term ends, whether it be July the 30th or August the 16th, effective that date. It is August the 16th, 2022. Now, how many terms, you know, Sam, how many terms has Sammy served?
Forward.
About 24 years.
Yeah.
That Sammy.
And he's been faithful. He's done a good job for us.
Unless anybody's got any other comments or input on that, I'd like to ask for a motion to appoint Mr. Tomlin. Motion. Second. James, all in Next item on the agenda is results of public hearing resolution number 1315, retail beer, table wine, and Winfield Food and Fuel LLC Quick Stop. Get asked for a motion to approve resolution number 2022-1315 for the sale of alcoholic beverages, table wine, off premises at this location. James made a motion, second by Keith, all in favor? The next item on the agenda is I've asked to put this on here to, about an employee pay raise. I know we've done a cost of living raise not too far back, but we're having trouble getting applicants to fill positions because it's based on the pay rate, pay scale that we're at now. And I kind of took a list of all the employees and the top out pay, not necessarily where they're at, and looked at the start pay, but some of these positions in here, well, as a matter of fact, all of them I felt like needed to be adjusted. I wanted to just kind of bring this before the council, but I sent it past. Just kind of go over this is just my take on, based on different salaries or whatever that they've got in the positions that they're in. I'm not necessarily asking the council to take, make a decision or what to do tonight, but I kind of would want the council, would they have to have a work session or whatever, to strongly consider us moving these top out pays for these positions that's inside the city to a more in line with pay for the position. I mean, we got some that's $8 and $9, or $9 top out and $12 top out, and 13 and 10. Most mid ranges, 11, 10, 15. I mean, this day and time, we're gonna have a hard time finding and hiring employees at those kind of pay rates, those kind of pay scales. I'd like the council to strongly consider, looking over it, give it some thought, and give me some suggestions as to thoughts on what it should be in each end of those. We've got a few new employees because of some retiring, and some we having to hire back to replace some that's retired for whatever reason, not with the city anymore. But we've got good employees that's been committed with the city for quite some time. I feel like has done an extremely well job in each one of their departments. We've got department heads that handle their departments. All the departments, whether it be fire, street, park, library, all the departments run very well is because of the right leadership. And I think that we need to try to encourage employees that's even underneath those department heads to want to be in that position when they retire. But we've got some that'll be eligible for retirement before. We've got probably quite a few that's going to be eligible for retirement, and I'd like to be able to see us have employees under them that would be willing to take that position because we know it and handle it and do it as well as the ones that we've got already in those positions. I just kind of feel like that we need to be more in line. I don't. From being an employer myself, it's hard to get help that's willing to do their job and do it right, and have a dedicated attitude toward their job. And we've got good people that do that. I'd like to be able to maintain that, and I just don't think we can do it paying just a little bit above minimum wage in some of these positions. Now, a lot of times people want to see what other communities is paying. I mean, I haven't reached out to other communities to kind of, I'm just kind of going by what the job requirement is of the individual, what their duties is, responsibilities. It's kind of how I come up with what I've come up with for us. An increase on the pay.
Have we done the math to see that this is gonna, increase?
Ma'am?
I said, have we done the math, have you done the math to see what this is gonna increase payroll?
This is just a top out.
Yeah, that's top step.
But, okay, so you're saying,
I just wanted to.
so even those that are topped out would still be put back in the STEP program, they wouldn't be starting out, I guess.
They're gonna be a direct hit at one time.
You talking about just doing top out?
Right. And my take is on the, start pay, we're gonna have to, we need to look at the start pay. How we figured the increase on the top out, I think we need to increase the bottom start out, but the top out would stay the same. That makes sense? Like if you're topping out at 18, say got somebody topping out at $18 and starts 13, they need to be increased, it needs to increase the same amount, and it needs to increase to 15, top out at 18.
Well, what if we've got some that are, like you said, close to retirement, but some of these increase in pay is so great, like what if, because we do what, 50 cents every 6 months? Or 25 cents? I could see somebody even maybe retiring, but they even got to top out.
See, their problem. I mean, it'd be more encouraging to me if I was gonna make X amount of dollars on my retirement, to go ahead and stay another 6 or 8 months. I mean, that's like driving a bus, I could have stayed on another 3 or 4 years and increased my retirement. Big
Well, for
retirement.
every dollar you give somebody, you're raising $120,000 in the budget.
Sir,
Every dollar increases the budget by $120,000.
tell me how you come up with that math.
Put the number and add the dollar per hour times 58 times, that's $58 an hour times 40-hour work weeks times 52 weeks,
An average is $120,000
$120,000.
per year.
May not be correct math, that's the way I do it.
A little bit different that way.
Try it, come over
I just think moving forward, I mean,
Well, and my thing too, if you're doing this to try to keep people to stay, then,
I'm not doing it to keep them
I mean,
safe.
well,
I don't
keep
think we got that
employees,
problem.
good employees.
I mean, we got, I can look right here at the employees that's in here. I mean, if a job comes open, if a job comes up, that's like if my people that work with me, my employees, I'll never ever blame them for leaving to go better themselves. And I'll never ever blame any of these city employees here for going to better themselves. I mean, because if I had an opportunity come my way, I'd leave every one of them sitting there and go take that opportunity. If we've got dedicated employees that's been here because they care about this community, this is where they want to be. And I don't think they will be penalized because of their care for this community when somebody else down the road offers them $3 or $4 more an hour to work in their city. I think we've got some occasionally that come in and they tell you this is where they want to be, and then they get an opportunity to go to a different place. But I'm not doing it to keep the employees. I'm not worried about losing the employees we got.
Well, I guess what
But
I meant to say was,
I just want to do what I feel like that we should do as far as on a pay for to the way times are now. I mean, you know, fuel and gas, $5 a gallon, it's to go to six, getting close to $6. I mean, a lot of them got to travel to work. I mean, I know some of them take patrol cars home and different things. Department head's got a vehicle, but we got regular employees that's having to drive back and forth to work. I mean, we did a cost of living raise, but the bottom line is these numbers I look over this, would I me personally want to apply for a job for some of these positions or pretty much any of the positions at the top out that they're at, with the responsibilities that they've got? I would.
well, I guess my thing is, I thought we might consider doing something now and then a step out, start it.
I mean, I'm open, you know, I mean, I'm just saying we need to do something for us to pay, because it's not in, if you want to do an analysis, have an analysis done to see what it's gonna cost, over the period of time when it comes up, when it comes to these figures, when it comes to this top out, but I want us to consider the starting pay in these positions.
Some of these start pays need to be raised, because you're not gonna get anybody to take the place.
That's what I'm getting at.
I mean, that's just not gonna happen.
That's what we know, 1 year, based on the last payroll.
104,000.
Well, actually, the payroll for last. So you were very close.
Well, I just, yeah, I understand why I was off too, and I don't know exactly the number of hours. Well, I think we ought to meet, I think we need a work session, I think we need to raise some of the starting pay. And figure out how much that's gonna cost us. And figure out how much we'll give the rest of them.
I mean,
And we may have to do it in steps.
I'm gonna use this for just, I mean, I kind of don't, you know, a lot of times don't like the city employees and city positions and different things, but, you know, let's just, for instance, our fire chief. You've got other firemen that's under our fire chief that don't want to take his position. If he was to retire, they're not going to take his position because with the job, with the pay that he makes, the fire chief makes, the others don't want to step in it because it's going to cut out their secondary job and it's going to cut into their pay, and they can't match it. It can't. They don't know they won't take his. Long story short, they don't know they won't take the fire chief's place based on the hour and him being salaried, having to be in the position that he's in, and then it will cut into their part-time or full-time job that they've got somewhere else. They've cut their pay too much to take his position. I mean, I'm just using that one example. Each department head, each one of our department heads has a role, that's a pretty big role. They're not just over that department, but they've got a lot of, time involved in their department for paperwork, grants, different things. I mean, it's more than just being having a chief on the side of their name. It's a supervisor. I mean, it's a bigger role than everybody knows that it is. I mean, because the role is that the requirements of that. I know it, it's, like I said, I'm not asking you to do anything, I just, if you think we need to table it and do a work session and kind of go over it and, come up with the way to do it is just, I feel like we need to examine it.
Well, I mean, some of these figures, I mean, I do agree with, but, you know, looking at it, so it takes roughly 2 years just to get a dollar raise. I don't.
But I mean, if you want to change it, step up, if you want to change it, do it, if you want to do part of it, step, and then part of it immediate, and then change to start out. I think like I said, how I said it a while ago, I think you have to move that start date to where it won't take so long to get to that step, when you start. But you've got, I don't know that we've got any, how many new hires we've got at the moment that's in the, probably
You can look at this, all these are, they're green or,
forced to see.
steps.
You've got 2 hires in 2022. Two in 2021. 2 in 22, 22 and 2 in 2021. Well, I ain't got the back sheet up.
Yeah, you got 4.
You want to discuss the session?
Well, I think a work session, so we can actually just discuss it,
Go and discuss, they can talk about something.
because I think we need to do something up front.
before the council? Or-
No, the next council's on the 21st. Because if we did it before council, then it'll lose us like 30 minutes. I think it'll take probably 30 minutes.
Thursday the 16th.
What time?
5:30.
5:30 next Thursday, this next Thursday.
Yeah, it'll be next Thursday.
Sit there.
Sewer tax reminder stuff.
Also, talk about the changing
When's that new attorney start?
So,
That's what we'll do, we'll set a work session next Thursday.
Okay.
5:30. Yeah, I need to vote on the work session. I need to ask for a motion to set up a work session for 5:30 next Thursday. Got a motion for Keith, a second by Gina, all in favor. Next item on the agenda is old business. Let me, I usually go around the room, but let me, while we, I've got James at work for, do a quick bite. On the CARES Act money, on the project, you know, that I kinda got ahead on. Can you kinda give me an update of where we're at on that, or what we need to do, or?
Well, right now, we're at the standstill. We had started engineering on it, but we haven't received any money yet. We haven't received anything from the grants, and we haven't received anything from the city.
Well, I think the reason the city was holding up, I think now, is because of the amount of money that you're gonna be able to get with your grant towards how we was gonna put ours in towards a match or whatever, towards your money, I think. Now, that's what I thought we were at. But have y'all submitted for a grant? Have you
Yes.
submitted a dollar amount?
Yes.
Just hadn't heard back.
We hadn't heard back from that on any of it. We got in there for, some emergency generators, just several different things, and we have, do you remember how much did we put in there for that project?
No, we don't have those dollar amounts, but now, that project was not at the top of our list because we have so much sewer line that's gotta be rehabbed. But that project was on our list because it was requested, so we've had to put it on hold.
Does the project, the couple pumping stations, I think, Paul
Right.
referred to, did you remember the dollar amount that Rod?
I don't right off the top of my
There's a
head.
total,
I think we applied for 900 sometime.
nearly 900.
For the overall projects up there.
Right, and some of that
Yes.
money was put in for that project.
I know James.
We hadn't heard anything from him yet.
So, see, we've got our money, I mean, we don't have our second half of it. This is June, we're supposed to have it in May.
Todd, you remember how much
Tracy done that.
that's why he left.
No, we got an email, do you remember what it said, Mike, the date?
I would assume about
You're saying-
325. I would assume about 325. I would assume our number would have been about the same as what we had from the city. It wouldn't have been that much difference between what we put in there and what.
I think we were trying to match it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would assume that our number was close to the city's number.
Yeah, she pulled minutes for something the other day, and I was looking at, and 300 something was in there for that. It was 320 something.
About 327 or something right around there. And I would imagine we tried to stay close to that so that it wouldn't be a discrepancy between our number and the city's number. That
We discussed how how we could use that money for that project with the water department. Remember that?
Yeah, and I think, James, if you would address, one of the questions that came up was that that money should be used on fire hydrants, and the CARES Act doesn't cover fire hydrants. Is that not correct?
It wasn't, I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Question came up about our part of it, or some of the 300,000 that we were gonna give the water department, grant the water department, was for fire hydrants, but fire hydrants aren't qualified under the
Everything about
clean
fire.
water.
I don't remember it either, but let me ask you this, if the city, if the city moved forward with giving that 320 some, whatever thousand dollars is, would it be designated to those pumping station projects? Because that's gonna serve a lot of people on the south side, is it not? Of course. That's, in the welding home back this way, up Smith Road, different things.
Yes, that's the only thing it can be used for. is
One
what
of the,
we're
one of
concerned.
the things about the pumping stations, pumping the water pressure, it will improve the fire hydrant's pressure that they may have a low pressure at, which is just a bonus for putting the pumping stations and increasing pressure.
Right, 'cause it's gonna be on the main.
That's the only way we can improve, pressure.
I mean, I think if that's the case, I need to, if the water department's willing to use that money for those projects that we know that's qualified for.
Right.
I need to ask the council to go ahead and let's move forward, letting them move forward with that project, with that 27,000, whatever.
I think the original 300.
And I will say, Rod's pretty sure that we're gonna get that money, it's just, we're just waiting on
Don't.
it. I mean, if you give us that money, we're gonna have to come up with the pumping stations, we can't let it sit there.
Yeah, it's just, one reason I had a little bit of reserve is because there seemed to be so much more money for water and sewer than there was for the city, what we could use the money. I mean, they even told, even with our money, that's one thing they tell us we use it on, water and sewer. It's not really clear what else that we can use it on, clean air and stuff like that we can, do stuff that we get in, air purification and heating and cooling units, the units that we get replaced or whatever, we knew that those was. But I would like to know that we're getting that second round of money, because if we go forward with this $300-something thousand project, we're gonna need that second round of money to make all the projects.
Well, if they'll check their emails and get back with us.
That's what we'll do, is try to move forward with that project if that's what the water department's waiting on for us doing the project.
Yeah, that's, right now, we got our engineers stopped.
Mayor, part of the answer to that, I believe, may be that some of that money was assigned to ADM to administer, and actually hand out the water money. The money that the CARES Act got, the state of Alabama money, they assigned it to Alabama Rural Water or somebody to handle the grants, okay? There are grants totaling about 350%. There's requests totaling about 350% of the money. And they've only got about 65% of the water authorities have actually submitted their applications, so they actually extended the time in which to file. Problem is if every water department that requested money gets funded at 15 or 20% of what they've requested, they're gonna run out of money. Just at 15 or 20% of what you requested, there's that many more requests than there is money.
We usually on our grants and stuff, we don't get extensions. You either have it filed by the deadline or you don't get it.
They granted an extension because there was
That's when they created a bigger problem.
Yeah, they did, but they extended the deadline, if I'm not mistaken. And
Every grant that we ever do, deadline, if you don't make it, you're out. You have to wait till the next round. You know, them extending it, that was.
We don't next round on it, but.
in my understanding, they're using some kind of point system.
Yeah.
And that, based on the number of points that you get, you go to the top of the list.
And we went on up in the point system.
Yeah. So, you know, some of the smaller, it's really to help smaller communities like Winfield and places like us versus the Birminghams that have the big revenue streams that
And our
ours have.
sewer helped us, I mean,
It's in bad shape.
so it really helps us.
That's what we'll do, we'll look and see, check our funding for that next round that's coming in, because I don't know that we would have enough money to do it if that next round don't come. You know, and I don't want us to spend something we don't have.
Right.
But that's what we're.
Okay, well, you know, just as soon as you hear from it, we'll start back on and get it done.
Council's okay with that, let's check it, run it back up next council meeting. That's really the only, well, other old business that I've got is the roads. I've got Luke doing the quotes, we should have that by the next council meeting to go forward on that. Been sure start dates very soon. I see it on there, but I don't see it before I say anything, see that it is happening on the entrance up there. I'm changing, pushing it hard too. Ed, you got any old in it? Okay. Keith?
Yes and no. This is about the new fire truck. Look at these and we do it the next council meeting. Look on the back of the page, it comes fully loaded. Everybody just look over it, we'll talk about it next week.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that you're in the fire department, you're not gonna know what it is, I will, I don't understand what a, safety vest is, and generator.
I'll make sure Alan's here next meeting, he can explain a bunch of it.
I think they just went and, where we at for?
Equipped it to the PDA standards.
What's the date of the ladder truck being paid? Pay off on the ladder truck.
September, October one.
Yeah, this truck won't get here in January 2023.
This
Yeah.
price is good now.
Maybe September
For how long?
2023.
How long is this price good for?
The order,
Right.
90 days, I hope.
That price was 30 days.
30 days.
Yes, that's right there, price.
Those are production trucks or demo, whatever you want to call them, so they're in production now.
First come, first served,
It is.
so somebody steps up.
I mean, if y'all want to vote on it, go ahead and get this one tonight, that'd be fine too.
We're gonna buy a truck, I'll make a motion to buy it.
What kind of down payment you gotta have on this?
No, payments, signed contract payments due on delivery.
What are we thinking on the ladder truck now?
What's the ladder truck about half the cost?
I think we're paying 5,600 on it. We're paying extra, so we'll pay it off in September.
I think we're gonna double it up on this.
Yeah, we've added, there's 2 or 3 loans we're paying extra. I think that one's around 5,600 a month.
Have we figured out what it would be a month if or when we purchase this?
No.
The initial cost,
I hadn't get that far.
the initial cost of that truck was in the mid threes, high threes.
The price, cost of
The
it,
ladder truck we
it
bought.
was right at 2.
It'll be about $12,000 a month. On 60 months, how long are you with mine?
I couldn't answer that. Last year's truck was bought 2011, and I don't have any idea how long.
We're saying about another $6,000 a month.
I wouldn't want to finance trucks on like that. I thought you did that, a lot done wrong, went back out.
I don't think it was.
What kind of specs you got on the chassis?
I'll have Cummins engine, Allison transmission. 6 speed. X-15.
For 10 years.
I'm actually waiting on another quote, I didn't get it in today. Both of them's running neck and neck. The reason for trying to price the production trucks or the demos is they're experiencing sudden price increases. I was on the agenda for that a while back, 2 hours before the meeting, I found out that the manufacturer had increased the price of the truck 5%, it was roughly $32,000. And they done it again at the 1st of June. So these trucks are in production, they're being built right now. And, so, at the time that they were put into production, they were locked in at a price. That price is truck equipped. Now you're looking at around $670,000, somewhere right in there. If you order a truck that's not equipped.
Did another rate increase through July, we found out today.
They just, the vendors actually found out 2 weeks before time, before June, that they would get another price increase in June.
Probably not taking orders for any from the manufacturer, from the chassis builder.
Figure the payments be about the same what we're paying now for 10 years.
If you do can.
The
same as our doubled up amount.
You don't say how many years you got that for, do you?
They give you a date when it be ready.
If you order one, in 18 to 19 months, these are in production, so it's 6 to 8 months on those. They're already on the assembly line.
So there will be 2023 year model.
Put in 1 year, they're going to come off in that line.
How many years we got that one for? How long do you have the ladder truck?
I think we got it in 18. I believe. It's 18.
Council want to take action on this?
Motion by
James is going to take action, Russ, I want to take action on it. Motion and second, all in favor?
Before we go up.
Call him now, you got to call him.
Give him a chance, leave his email around.
Yeah, I'd be on the phone out there right now.
I will send an email, text message, and voicemail.
I hope you ain't, does anybody else, Tina, you got any old business?
No, I was just going to ask if you had the quote on the road fee too, I got it, yeah.
I mean, if I get it for you, then I'll go ahead and give it to you. Tim? All right, nobody else got anything? I don't have any other business. But you got that, show me that, you had that pulled out a little bit. When I had to, kind of stuff there.
That's engineering drawings. But everything's so small, you can't read it.
Yeah. I seen these dash there a while ago, but I don't really nothing to me. I don't have a dollar amount.
They got an all amount, ain't no
That's
way.
not the bid package, it's not gonna be ready until about Thursday.
I need to ask for a motion to pay the bill. Motion. Got a motion, second. Keith, all in favor? Nobody else has anything, I need to ask for a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Hello, Lee Hines here, owner-operator of Alexander's Heating and Air Conditioning. We've been family-owned and operated since 1954, proudly serving Marion, Fayette, and Lamar County. We are Carrier factory authorized dealers, but service all makes and models. We specialize in residential and light commercial HVAC systems. So as we get ready to enter another hot Alabama summer, please remember Alexander's Heating and Air for all your HVAC needs.
Hey, this is Eric Simmons at Furniture Depot in Guin. We've been here in Guin for 10 years serving the needs of families like yours with furniture from Ashley, Serenity Sleep, Million Dollar Rustic. We have stores in Guin and Fayette. So come see me here at Guin or my wife at Fayette, and we'll be happy to serve you.